a message flashed up from our accountant, and these words are still etched in my memory to this day. And the words were, "James, your business is technically insolvent and you're legally obliged to cease trading." During the early years of BrewDog, we were constantly running out of cash, teetering on the edge of financial oblivion every single day. And I think it's true for any small high-growth company. Unless you're constantly on the edge financially, you're not working your limited amount of capital hard enough. And we existed on that edge for years and years and years. But it came to a point in 2008. We were delighted to ship our first container of beer to America. We sent it off, and a few weeks later, I flew over to Los Angeles to launch BrewDog in the US. I got there, I tasted the beer, and I was devastated. We made the rookie mistake of not sending our beer in a chilled container, and the beer cooked all the way from Aberdeen to Los Angeles. We couldn't do the launch event. The importer says, "James, there's no way I can pay you this £25,000 because there's no way I can sell this beer." It was a terrible few days with events lined up, and we couldn't do the events because we had no beer that we wanted to give to people. Flying home, I was delayed for 8 hours in Chicago. I was in the airport, I was hungry. I went to try and buy an apple and some water, and my cards didn't work at all. And I said to the person serving, they don't work because they're Scottish. But in reality, there was no money in the business bank account because the importer wasn't paying us the £25,000, and there was no money in my own bank account because I couldn't afford to pay myself. Sitting in Chicago airport, I was hungrier and hungrier as the flight was delayed. So I went back to the stand. There was one last apple left. This is not the same apple. This is 14 years ago, so definitely not the same apple. And I had a pin badge, little BrewDog pin badge on my shirt. I said to the person serving, "Look, my cards don't work because they're Scottish. My flight's delayed, I'm very hungry, I would love to buy this apple, and I can give you this pin badge in exchange." Luckily, they took pity on me, or they were an avid collector of obscure beer pin badges, who knows, but they gave me the apple, and I was very happy. I was sitting on the floor in Chicago airport waiting for my flight, and I had a BlackBerry at the time. A message flashed up from our accountant, and these words are still etched in my memory to this day. And the words were, "James, your business is technically insolvent and you're legally obliged to cease trading." So I didn't have enough money to buy an apple, and my business was essentially bankrupt. I got on the flight at 10 o'clock that evening, and I got into action mode. I spent the whole flight, the whole way back to London, brainstorming. It was do or die, it was now or never. We had to find a way to get out of our predicament. About 3 o'clock in the morning, flying over a beautiful night sky, the idea came to me. Why don't we try and involve the people who love our beer, a very small but very passionate group of people? Why don't we involve them in the ownership of our company? By the time we'd landed in London at 6 a.m, I'd written a plan for Equity for Punks, the world's first real equity crowdfunding campaign, and I was crazily excited. When I got back the next week, I showed my plan to some lawyers. They all said it was impossible, it couldn't be done, it was a silly idea. They said some things that weren't even quite that nice. The 7th legal company that I spoke to told me, well, this can maybe be done, but it's going to cost £100,000. This was at a time that we had no money in the bank, so I gambled the entire future of this business on making this completely unknown, untried, untested idea that I dreamt up while sleep deprived in an airplane at 3 o'clock in the morning. If Equity Punks didn't work, I was going to have to go back in the fishing boat and the business would have failed completely. Luckily, it worked. We managed to raise £700,000. We got some investors. We started building a community that was the heart and soul of our business. They're our biggest ambassadors. They're our biggest advocates. Equity Punks continues to be the most important thing we've ever done, and we've gone on to set all types of records for crowdfunding, and it is the coolest thing I think that BrewDog stands for as a business, which is community ownership. All of that came about because with no money, and I had to swap a pin badge for an apple. So ill-begotten apples play a huge role in the story of BrewDog. Just be careful not to eat the bit with the pin badge in it.